Now the watchers have had their punishment pronounced, their sentence of imprisonment, and eventually their death penalty, to which there is no appeal. These were powerful angels, and they are defeated and will never be a force again. Now we'll get to the timeline Enoch sets forth for their imprisonment, as well as the 7 days, not 10, the 7 days of Enoch in the next videos that's coming. This will be good. How do these watchers respond? Do they take up arms and attack heaven? Do they begin to ravage the earth? Well, their offspring already were, there's no doubting that. Do they war or do they weep? This is incredible. A show of power of Yahuwah that is, just a wow. There's no other way to say it. Yahuwah is sovereign, and challenging him is futile indeed. Also in this video, how did the archangels also respond to the punishment of the watchers? This is fascinating. Let's roll it. Open your book of 1st Enoch to chapter 13, verse 3. We had skipped this before. Then I went and spoke to them all together, the watchers, and they were all afraid. Afraid? They were powerful angels, with a force of perhaps millions or maybe even billions of giants and hybrid creatures crawling the earth, roaming around the earth. Yet they were afraid. Indeed, they were. They well knew their forces were nothing in the face of Yahuwah. They came from heaven, and they at least knew that. And fear and trembling seized them. Wow! We serve a mighty Elohim indeed. Sometimes it's easy to forget that in all of this demonic bluster out there, especially in our age, they are nothing to him. And they besought me to draw up a petition for them, that they might find forgiveness, and to read their petition in the presence of Yahuwah of heaven. So what was their response? Their response was trying to petition him, trying to make a case. Please, 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 right? They're pleading here. And they are so afraid. They could not even face Yahuwah himself. How about that? Why is it that angels have a human being that they're asking to go to heaven and be their mediator? Think about that. Imagine it. Why? Well, Enoch will tell us. You'll see. Verse 5, for from thence forward they could not speak with him, nor lift up their eyes to heaven for shame of their sins. They knew it, for which they had been condemned. Wow. It is as if they realized how badly they messed up at that point. It's funny. People are out there worshiping pantheons of these watchers who are now impotent, useless, powerless, defeated, and nothing. Imagine that. They knew it themselves. And here they admit they are powerless. Yet those man-made religions attribute false power to them. They are nothing. They are defeated, and they will never be anything again. Never. We'll get there. There is no need to fear the watchers. Fear Yahuwah righteously. Verse 6. Then I wrote out their petition and the prayer in regard to their spirits and their deeds individually, and in regard to their requests that they should have forgiveness and length. Notice Enoch details some of their individual sins in that writing, in that petition, and he does in this book as well include some. We've covered those. However, Yahuwah was aware of them individually, and this is how Satan or Gadriel received a different punishment and judgment separately, which is very clear. Again, watch that video, who is Gadriel, or who was Gadriel, I don't know, something like that. Azazel is even singled out and punished first, and separately as well. So, however, the sin of all the rest of the watchers is clearly the same, and they are judged accordingly. Only Gadriel receives a different judgment, it appears. And remember, he first started sinning in the Garden of Eden many, many years before this, so that shouldn't be a surprise. Verse 7, and I went off and sat down at the waters of Dan, in the land of Dan, to the south of the west of Hermon, which is, by the way, where Dan's territory will be in the time that Israel is, defined territory-wise for each of the tribes. However, Enoch was a prophet who knew these things, though Dan wasn't born yet. What he's doing is he's putting this in terms we can read and understand thousands of years later because he can do that. Remember, he identified us as his intended readership from the beginning chapters, believers in the end times. And he is very clearly in language and terms we can understand here, trying to be clear to us so we can understand this. It's also funny how the tribe of Dan also introduces idol worship in Israel. How about that? That's a Watcher stronghold. The first, and Dan also rejected his inheritance in territory as well. The Hasmoneans, who were Samaritans, not Hebrews, came from the same territory of Dan, Modein, which is in Dan, to attack Judea, Yehudia, and the temple in 165 BC, and when they took charge of it, they usurped the priesthood and took it over and didn't give it back. So you watch who defiled the temple. We well position that. I try to debate that here. Be muted. Our channel, our rules. I read their petition till I fell asleep. Verse 8. And behold, a dream came to me, and visions fell down upon me, and I saw visions of chastisement. And a voice came bidding me to tell it to the sons of heaven and reprimand them. And Enoch did. Now, notice this. The watchers were awaiting their answer anxiously, it appears, and they were already aware this was not going to fly. But check out this language. Amazing. Verse 9. And when I awaked, I came unto them, and they were all sitting, gathered together. What were they doing? Well, they were just waiting for Enoch to awaken, essentially. They wanted to know the answer. Weeping. Wow. What? Weeping. They were crying, man. In Abel's jail. Now, that's an interesting name for an area of Nephilim we mentioned before, destroying and manipulating mankind. Imagine that. Did they lock away humans there, or is this, where they manipulated DNA? Who knows, but certainly probably named for some good reason like that, which is between Lebanon and Sinisir, with their faces covered. Wow. So they're weeping with their faces covered, anxiously awaiting their pronounced judgment. They know they're wrong, folks. Does it sound like a group about to take up arms, however? No. Did they? Nowhere in any scriptural account ever has any war in heaven ever occurred, period. Done. Can't produce it because it doesn't happen. Yes, Yahushua says he saw Satan fall as lightning from heaven. That is a future event. That's prophecy. Not until Revelation 12. That's when he falls. John tells us. A future event, and that cannot have occurred yet. John even tells us in the first sentences of that whole book that all of Revelation, which, by the way, was written after Messiah ascended to heaven, well after, makes it very clear that that is a future event. Verse 10, and I recounted before them all the visions which I had seen in sleep, and I began to speak the words of righteousness and to reprimand the heavenly watchers. Whoa. Chapter 14, verse 4, I wrote out your petition, and in my vision it appeared thus, that your petition will not be granted unto you throughout all the days of eternity. Period. Pretty clear. And that judgment has been finally passed upon you. Yea, your petition will not be granted unto you. So get this. This is final. Yahushua will not change his mind regarding the watchers ever. It's done. Their judgment is already written. It's going to happen. They're imprisoned now. They're not judged yet. But on the day of judgment, we already know what their judgment is going to be. Their end will not be rewritten, nor can the likes of Tom Horn or anyone change it, as his book does try to do that. We love his book, but on this issue, we have a major issue because he's not reading it. This is why we can't read in fragments, take things out of context. Even the book of Enoch, they do that. Verse 7, and your petition on their behalf shall not be granted, nor yet on your own, even though you weep and pray. And there it is again. Yahuwah saw them. Yeah, they weep now, they pray now, but he will not hear them. The deed is done. See, just like that term, many like to use today to justify their rebellion. He knows my heart, right? Yep, he does, and he judges accordingly. And that's usually is not going to bode well for anyone saying that. And speak all the words contained in the writing which I have written. So, even if you quote Scripture and pray what appears properly, as it says, he knows your heart. Again, Pharisee doctrine here, which originates really in the watchers. That's basically the same thing. And the vision was shown to me thus. Behold, in the vision clouds invited me, and a mist summoned me. And the course of the stars and the lightning sped and hasted me, and the winds in the vision caused me to fly and lift me upward and bore me into heaven. Let us not forget the watchers were not all-knowing. Angels are not, nor are they omnipotent like Yahuwah. They're not everywhere at once. They cannot be. They're also completely wrong in their doctrines. Their doctrines are what basically you could say are the doctrines of demons. And here is what Yahuwah says to them about their inept teachings. Chapter 16, verse 3, again, just going to repeat this quickly. Let's not forget this in context. You have been in heaven, but all the mysteries had not yet been revealed to you. They left too soon. And you knew worthless ones. You don't know what you're talking about. And these in the hardness of your hearts you have made known to the women. And of course, the women to the men, and evil was done on earth. So, what they taught men, which you find on, let's say the Sumerian tablets. Yeah, those are Nephilim Watcher Doctrine writings, for instance. It's just plain wrong. Those are wrong, period. And there's no other way to look at that. There's no placating false religion. There's no placating doctrine of the watchers, period. Those are rebuked by Yahuwah himself. There's no melting them into the Bible in any sense. And we should never do it and never allow anyone to do it. They try. So what about the holy archangels? How did they respond to the punishment pronounced on the watchers for their sin? This is intense. Yes, the archangels carry out the binding of the watchers, but here is what they have to say about the punishment themselves, especially. This is cool. Let's go to chapter 68, beginning in verse 2. And on that day, Michael answered Raphael, that's 2 of the 7 archangels, and said, the power of the Spirit transports and makes me to tremble. Wow. I mean, that's serious. The power of the Spirit. Whoa, dude, that's cool. Because of the severity of the judgment of the secrets. Well, what's that word? Well, the word secret is the word that we know. Occult. Same word. The judgment of the angels, who can endure the severe judgment which has been executed, and before which they melt away. Ooh, referring to their final consummation on the day of judgment with eternal fire when they are gone forever. They're no longer eternal beings. They will not live eternally. Yes, Yahusha can destroy even angels, and he will on the day of judgment indeed. Verse 3, And Michael answered again and said to Raphael, Who is he whose heart is not softened concerning it, and whose reins are not troubled by this word of judgment that is gone forth upon them because of those who have thus led them out? Now, in other words, no angel will ever do that again. And according to Scripture, this doesn't happen. It's just not there. Or it would be there if it did, because this is severe and not something Scripture would leave out. It can't. Anyone who adds that is really adding to the word. Verse 4, And it came to pass, when he stood before Yahuwah of spirits, Michael said thus to Raphael, I will not take their part under the eye of Yahuwah. So he's not going to defend them, and he's not going to be like them. For Yahuwah of spirits has been angry with them because, get this, they do as if they were Yahuwah. Understand the severity of this. These angels thought they were higher than they are. They tried to equate themselves to Yahuwah. It's Satan's doctrine, really, from the garden. If you think about it, ye shall be as gods, right? Very similar. They thought they could procreate, manipulate creation, and violate Yahuwah's laws of creation, basically trying to operate as Yahuwah, which they cannot. Michael's essentially expressing an eternal oath as well here, that he will never do that. In fact, he's basically saying no one will. Not after this. Verse 5, Therefore all that is hidden shall come upon them forever and ever. For neither angel nor man shall have his portion in it. So none of them are going to do it. But alone they have received their judgment forever and ever. Indeed, no angel and no man will ever compare to Yahuwah, and they will never do this again. We will follow his ways, or we will perish, period. And that's really it. There's nothing else. Can we learn from this account? Can we see what really happened here? These watchers elevated themselves to the status of Yahuwah, essentially, yet they were not, and they failed. Their knowledge was limited, incomplete, and wrong, even though that is the thinking of the world today generally. Now, the watchers aren't here anymore, but their doctrines are still here and prevalent. However, how did these 200 powerful angels respond to their punishment? They wept. They trembled in fear of Yahuwah. They knew they were nothing compared to him, admittedly. They knew they were wrong. They were defeated and will never be a power again. For those who include them in their worship, they will follow the same fate. However, there was no war in heaven. They put their heads down in shame, and they accepted their punishment. Not that they had a choice, and they also seemed to know that they certainly had none. No option of rebellion there. They were already shut off from heaven, for that matter, thus they could not go up there to try to create a war if they even wanted to. Didn't happen. Again, Gadriel, Satan, is the exception, not because Yahuwah treats him differently, but clearly because he must not have defiled himself with women. Oh, he's evil, don't worry. He was punished from the time of the garden, his punishment there. And he will receive his judgment in the end as well, though 1,000 years later, he'll be locked away for 1,000 years. He'll be let loose, and then he will be consumed and judged finally and eternally at that point, and there will be no more Satan. Yahuwah allows that just as he allowed some of the demons to remain under Satan's control after the flood, about 10%. We are to be tested, and there's nothing wrong with that. a righteous judge would test. If we weren't, and he brings his presence to earth in full after the day of judgment, well, we just die in his presence anyway, because sin cannot live in his full presence. And Michael's reaction, man, no angel will ever do that again. That's how Rob Skiba put it. We love that. It's very true, and none has in Scripture. There cannot be a second incursion. The questions remain, though. How long are these locked away? Do they return? We're going to get to that coming soon. We have over 400 videos on this channel, one for every day of the year now, many just as profound with some 50 or so in Tagalog for Filipinos, and now 6 in Spanish to start. We also have been setting up subtitles for 20 plus languages for most of our videos. Don't forget to like and subscribe and click the bell for notifications of new uploads. Join our email list, though, as YouTube fails to notify often, and we will notify yourselves at thegodculture.com. Just fill in the pop-up there. We now have alternative platforms for videos on Rumble, Odyssey, and Utreon. And our new podcast is also available for all of our videos as well. All links in the description box. Friend us on Facebook at The God Culture, space original. If you prefer an alternative, we now have Parler, link below. We have 6 books published internationally, being read in over 100 countries. With a new release, the first book of Enoch, the oldest book in history, and now you know it is most certainly. Just read the introduction of that book. Watch even the beginning of this series, the first couple of videos, we prove that out, but better so in the book. We also have now launched Ophir Philippines Coffee Table Book in the US, Canada, UK, many overseas markets on Amazon, and it's available in hardcover or softcover there. Additionally, we launched the Book of Jubilees, the Torah calendar, with color maps and interior, as so many have requested overseas as well. We already have the color maps in the Philippines for that book. That too is available in hardcover color or softcover color, as well as the black and white still on Amazon if you wish. The Book of Enoch is also available in those same 3 platforms overseas on Amazon and in the Philippines in black and white. All books, including Solomon's Treasure, are now free in eBook. Just go to ophirinstitute.com for all the links for your area for all of our books. More coming soon. Thank you for watching. Now always remember, prove all things for yourself. Yah bless to everyone.